The unexpected resurgence of Syria's civil war is creating new challenges for the United States that had tried to turn the page years ago in a devastating conflict where it saw few good outcomes. This latest turmoil comes just months before the return of President-elect Donald Trump to the White House, whose team might view this as an unanticipated opportunity to reshape the Middle East through, though much remains uncertain. The rapid advance of rebels who captured Syria's second largest city, Aleppo, comes after U.S. ally Israel tried to weaken two key supporters of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, Iran and its affiliated Lebanon's Hezbollah. Russia, other backer of Assad, has been heavily focused on its invasion of Ukraine on the one hand, and in a region already in turmoil since the Gaza conflict, U.S. policy on Syria, reaffirmed by President Joe Biden's administration, has changed little for the past decade. Though Assad has lost credibility through his brutality, the U.S. is not prioritizing punishing him out and does not support the rebels either. Trump, during his first term, made a sudden decision to pull U.S. troops at the urging of Turkey. Trump later reversed this decision after international appeals led by France. Complicating matters, one of Trump's controversial nominees, intelligence chief designate Tulsi Gabbard, has drawn attention for her past statements supportive of Assad. On the humanitarian front, despite criticism of its limited action, the Biden administration has allocated over $1 billion in aid for Syria's displaced people over the past year. The U.S. remains opposed to any reconstruction efforts in Assad-controlled areas unless there is accountability for the war, which has resulted in over 500,000 deaths and millions of displaced individuals since the year 2011. All right, for more on this, we have with us Giorgio Cafiero, CEO of Gulf State Analytics and professor at Georgetown University. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Professor, welcome to WION. What are the challenges for the United States posed by the escalating Syria civil war at this point?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on your network. Obviously, the unfreezing of the Syrian civil war took many by surprise. And I think right now the U.S. is trying to sort of figure out exactly what's going on. But there are, of course, some serious concerns that Washington has right now. Whenever we're talking about anything that goes on in Syria, naturally, policymakers here in Washington are always going to be worried about the implications for Israel and also concerned about what anything might mean for the roughly 900 U.S. troops currently based inside northern Syria. I think in light of the HTS-led offensive that began last month, Washington obviously has some concerns about how Iran and certain non-state actors that are backed by Tehran might respond to the situation, concerned about ways in which the Iranians might try to take advantage of this chaos in Syria. I think those are some of the main concerns on the minds of policymakers here in Washington. But at the same time, I think many officials in the U.S. also see some real opportunity coming out of these developments, an opportunity to see a real weakening of the Iran-led axis of resistance right now.
And do you think the Trump presidency will bring some sort of shift in terms of the U.S. policy regarding Syria?
You know, whenever we're considering the transition to Trump's second administration, there's always so much uncertainty. Trump is a very unpredictable figure. He will say one thing on Monday, something totally different on Tuesday. If the record of his first administration is any guide as to how his second administration will approach U.S. foreign policy, there will probably be a fair amount of incoherence. Makes it very difficult for us to predict how his incoming administration is going to deal with the situation in Syria. I do think, though, we have good reason to expect the Trump team to go ahead with sort of a maximum pressure 2.0 agenda against Iran. I think the incoming administration will see Syria as an important place for countering Tehran's influence. At the same time, As your viewers are aware, during Trump's first term, he spoke about pulling the U.S. troops out of Syria. Although that didn't happen, this might be something that Trump tries to do in his second term. But we should also consider that in the event that Islamic State will have some sort of resurgence due to the chaotic situation in Syria, that might put pressure on the next administration to keep the U.S. presence in Syria. We really don't know how Trump is going to deal with Syria. At the same time, it's very possible that Trump will try to strike some sort of an arrangement with the Syrian government in which there is either an official or unofficial renormalization of relations with Damascus in exchange for Assad's government making certain concessions vis-a-vis Iran or Israel. I wouldn't bet on that happening, but just bringing it up is a possibility that we should definitely keep in mind.
Professor, thank you so much for those comments and your insight. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Of course, we'll be watching these developments very closely, not only in Syria, but in the Middle East in general. Thank you.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.